Hey, welcome to the Friday edition of the Good Morning Wake Up Show. David Cohen here with you, and I've got two great guests today. Very different, but there's a correlation between the two stories. Our first guest is Tzabia SiegeL. She's a friend, business associate, and she's also a clinical nutritionist, life coach, weight loss specialist, and the person behind the foodcoach.ca. And for those of you who have taken any of my workshops, I show Tzabia's website in my marketing workshop or my niche marketing workshop. You know what it is, Tzabia? The reason I show your website is the foodcoach.ca is it's a really good example of a niche, right?
Yeah.
The website is like totally tells you what you do. So it's a great site.
Thank you.
She's also a graduate of Western University with a degree in physical education. Also, the Edison Institute of Nutrition as a certified nutritionist, and she studied coaching at the Coaches Training Institute, or CTI, as a life coach. Her learning is ongoing in the field of functional nutritional diagnostics, which offers insight into clients' biology and nutrition via blood, urine, nutrigenics testing, and the healing opportunities abound when you go beyond the symptoms and look at a person's unique biochemistry. In addition to her clinical practice, Tzabia loves taking clients into the creative side of healing. And these are cutting-edge practices for stress management, optimizing mood, memory. What was I going to say next? I forgot. No, memory. See, decision-making and cognition. Finding freedom in your body and mind, improving your overall sense of well-being, and balancing your relationship with food. She has spent over 35 years honing her own practice in free dance, mixed media, photography, and journaling, all with the intention of helping others have optimal health. Recently, she enhanced her practice with training as a creativity fit coach with Whitney Fair and the author of The Artist Within. But also recently,
Tzabia, more recently, yes.
Tzabia and her husband took the plunge and opened up a cafe called the Schmooze down at Pape and Danforth, and then you got out of that, and then you went on a journey. And so, talk to us about your journey over the past 2 years, because it's really remarkable. And I've watched your posting on Facebook, and I'm just in awe. And so, talk to us about your journey.
Okay, well, 2 years is probably a good time if we're looking at the whole part of it, but let's maybe go back 7 months because that's when we really took off. So we made a decision to get out of winter. Anybody who lives in Canada knows what that's like, and just, over the last years, not wanting to do winter anymore. Mm-hmm. And also I was just feeling like we had a beautiful home in Toronto, in a wonderful neighborhood with great neighbors, so many great things going for it. But I honestly felt like I had stagnated in my life. I didn't feel like I was moving forward in any great way. There wasn't a lot of adventure. It was an hour and a half to get out of Toronto to go into nature. Mm-hmm. It's getting a little bit tired of that. So we sold our home. We made a big decision. We sold the cafe first and then sold our home. And we bought a 1975 31-foot vintage Airstream and had it gutted and remodeled for us and polished. So we have an Airstream named Grace, and we've been traveling through Canada and the States with her for, well, actually 7 months in total of travel, and we got Grace. We actually launched into the US on January 9th. So
this year?
Yeah, this year. Yeah. Wow. So and then we just got back yesterday.
Here you are with the sort of the normal, boomer lifestyle, a business, a home in the Broadview, Danforth area in Toronto, and you and your husband sell the business, the house, buy an Airstream, move out west into the States. We get ideas all the time to do things, and we get nudges too, right?
Yes.
Where did the idea start to bubble and brew, first of all?
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to step back a long time for that one, because when I was a teenager, one of my bucket list things was to get a Westphalia and take a year to travel across North America. So push it forward like 50 years, almost 50 years, and finally it becomes a reality. So So the seed was planted when I was young.
Mhm.
I've got a really strong sense of adventure, and so does Barry. And I'm an initiator, and he's a great follower. So together, we made a decision to do this. Um, I think for me, self-transformation and movement and change are really big components of my character. And again, I just felt like I was stagnating. I mean, we had a good life, so much to be grateful for, too comfortable, actually, too comfortable. So we just weren't doing adventurous things. We were so exhausted at the end of the day that all we do is watch TV. Barry especially would come back from the cafe after 11 hours of work, and there was barely any relationship there. We would sit in front of the TV. I just couldn't handle it anymore. I was kind of bored and felt stuck. So that was a big catalyst to go on a big adventure.
Were you following your heart or your calling?
Wow, that's a good question. I think my calling is very much in the work that I do, and I see everything that I do now in relation to how will it affect me, and therefore how will it affect my work, and what can I bring to the table when I'm working with clients. So I would say I was following my heart, but I can't separate my heart anymore from my work, because it's really my body of work, and it's so much part of who I am and what I do. So I would say it's linked. They were linked.
So, um, and what are some values that are playing out for you? Like, what is it? The idea of adventure? Is it the idea of freedom? Like, what?
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's a great question. So adventure for sure, really big part of. It's certainly one of my big values. Self-transformation, because again, it was too stuck and needed something to push both of us out of our comfort zone. And we definitely did that. We pushed way out of our comfort zone. Nature is a big value for me. And again, we weren't spending that much time in nature. So that was huge. I think mixed in with adventure is exploration, and mixed in with self-transformation is exploration. Oh, this is great. I can see that you've shared the Facebook page. Yeah. I think those are the big ones. I think I'm a spiritual person too, and I value that. And I think there's always that element of, where's my spirit at, and how can we boost this a little more? How can I get more connected? And nature is my temple. So it was connected to that as well.
You see, that's what I think we're also going through right now. Yes, it sucks. Yes, it's not fun being at home and I can't go to a movie or the Blue Jay game or whatever right about now. But I think if you kind of reframe this and go, this is an adventure, and I think a lot of people at the end of COVID-19 are going to want to see what you and Barry have done. So to me, like living life of one's own choosing isn't easy. It's not as easy as it may look. So tell us about sort of what went into the planning and sorting out what needed to, what the planning and sorting out you had to do in order to make your vision become a reality.
Yes. Ooh, how far back are we going here? It's like, okay.
Here's the life you left.
So what's that?
And here's the life you left, by the way.
Yeah. Well, in part, I mean, a lot of this that you're going to see is, the last 7 months, but, so the planning, one thing to know is that it takes a lot of it for us anyway, it was years of planning. So, you plant the seed first, right? And I think that's the case for any big vision. You plant the seed and then you start to let it grow. And so, it was a couple years of envisioning and sort of how are we going to make this work. And for us, it became an RV journey because we knew that we wanted to leave Toronto. Toronto's a great city. It's a really great city. But between the traffic and getting out of the city to go into nature was like an hour and a half venture and bumper to bumper traffic often. It became, and we were so tired that, to get in the car and take a drive just felt like too much. So we really weren't getting out of the city very much. It's, any big city is very expensive, which meant that we had to keep hustling, and Barry wanted to retire. I'm going to keep working because, again, I love my work, but I didn't want to have to worry about continually, getting more clients and so forth. I wanted to settle down a little bit. And so that meant, not as much income on a monthly basis for the two of us combined. So that was another consideration. So basically, the prep was coming to the realization we wanted to do this, making a decision that it would be an RV journey, deciding on, somewhat on the timing of it. Selling the cafe needed to happen before the house.
Mm-hmm.
And then, there's a ton of planning. And okay, if you're going to go on an RV journey, what RV do you choose? What makes the most sense? Do you get a Class A, the ones that you drive, the motorhomes? Do you get a tow vehicle? I mean, there's tons of decision making in the RV world itself, right? So lots of planning and dealing with that. And then, of course, we chose to go with a vintage and get it remodeled, which is a whole other story than just buying outright either a used or a new vehicle. So does that answer your question somewhat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, but it wasn't all like, fairy tales and ice cream. The move has been a bit of a test. Share some of the challenges that you and Barry faced and how you overcame them, especially month with being in the States.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go back to our very first big challenge. Was we were we hadn't gotten the Airstream yet. We actually chose to go with a couple to retrofit this Airstream that were in Penticton. And we're, of course, from Toronto. So we had to get across the country with our vehicle, which would be eventually our tow vehicle. And in that process, we were about 3 weeks in. I think we were in Wisconsin, I think. And we were driving down the highway, a 2-lane highway split, and a truck went by, and an object flew off the truck.
Wait.
And we didn't know what it was, but we heard this bang, and it went right into the hood of the car.
Oh, no.
And so it ended up being a piece of pipe about a foot long, 14 inches long, and it had flown off the truck at 100 miles an hour. We were going 100 miles an hour in the other direction. So at about 200 miles an hour, if I've got my math right, it flew and hit the hood and went literally zeroed in on the hood and landed in there. So that was the first mishap. But David, that was also the beginning of recognizing that we were protected. If there are guardian angels out there, they were taking care of us, and that happened. Many different things happened that we really felt, oh my God, if that had been an inch off, that went through the front windshield, that could have killed one of us. So our engine kept working. We lived with that perfect hole. And if you scroll down far enough in our Facebook page, you'll eventually find the hole. It's a long ways down because that was many months ago. But,
yeah.
That was one of many, many mishaps we had that were actual physical mishaps. We had a lot of challenges with our tanks, our freshwater tank and our gray tank, which takes the water from the shower and the drains, not the black tank, which is from the toilet. Yeah. We had problems with that. So we had a lot of water flowing up through the floor and through the shower. We had to deal with that for months. There was a lot of things, and a lot of things in the retrofitting of the Airstream. It's beautiful. It really is beautiful. It's as pretty as the pictures make it look, but it was not well done for a moving vehicle. I have to say that. As much as we think the people who did it are lovely, lovely people, they didn't bring enough experience of a traveling home to the table. And so a lot of things went wrong with that. So that's been challenging, and it's stuff we still have to deal with. Even now that we're planted, we're going to have to get that fixed. So.
Oh, look at that. That's gorgeous.
Yeah, that was beautiful. That was down in southeastern Arizona.
And it looks like shot right out of Thelma and Louise or something.
Yeah, yeah. This was actually on an alpaca farm. There's something called Harvest Hosts where it started, I think, as wineries, but it's also farms and sometimes it's distilleries as well, or it could even be now they've included golf courses. So they will host you for free in exchange for buying something or having a meal, depending what they're offering. So this particular one was in southeastern Arizona, very close to the Mexican border, and it's an alpaca farm. And so we went there and spent time with the alpacas. We actually were there for 4 nights, which is quite unusual for Harvest Host. Usually it's just 1 night, but it was right before COVID. It was actually right at the beginning of COVID. And also we stayed there through a gale storm. It was one of the biggest storms we experienced while we were there. So it was really nice of her to let us settle in, because if we had tried to move, we might have been in even more trouble.
So you faced some challenges, as you alluded to. How did the challenges affect your relationship with Barry?
I would say that, did it change it in any big way? I would say no. I think we dealt with it in a similar way that we would normally. But I'll tell you, every relationship has its way of working. We both can get quite stressed out about certain things, and then we have this tendency to at each other, and then we calm down. So we've had a lot of that's gone on, and we've also, at the same time, we've just experienced some amazing adventures and share that. And, we've come out of it. We're still strong as a relationship. So I think it brought, it definitely brought some of the big stressors out in us. And they say, I'd read that before we ever started, that this kind of trip where you're living in 200 square feet together and traveling together, it will, if your relationship isn't strong, it'll probably destroy it. And if it's really good, it'll make it better. And I think we definitely fall in closer to the good. And so I don't know if it made it stronger. It just we just have more experience and adventure behind us together.
So what are the keys then for a good relationship? Because I
in general,
the other day, I addressed this with Victoria Lorien Pavish, a psychotherapist.
Mm-hmm. I know Victoria.
Relationships right now,
yeah, cool.
Either stressed to the max or really becoming beautifully divine and close. So
well, I think what I think this happens in a situation like this is, I think it brings out more of what your relationship is about. So if you've got a really strong emotionally bound, spiritually bound relationship, you will probably do more of that. If you've got a lot of big challenge in your relationship, you're going to see more of it. I think it'll bring more of whatever is out. I mean, asking what makes a good relationship, that's a great question. I think for me, what seems clear is you have to have shared values. If you don't have that, eventually your relationship won't survive. So, the values of in our case, the values of adventure and nature, and certainly those two especially are, really, and connection. Those three we really share a lot. So we both love to stay connected in deeper ways. So
good food. I noticed you cooking here, and it's like you're cooking up,
yes,
really healthy stuff. Look at that.
Well, of course, I'm the food coach.
Yeah.
Part of it, part of this journey is also to, over time, is to bring the idea of how do you create healthy meals when you're traveling and you're in a small space.
Yeah.
So, honestly, there was so much learning curve in this year. I didn't do a lot of that, but as we continue, hopefully when COVID kind of, neutralizes and people can get on the road again, we'll be on the road again. And I would like to bring more of the food coach aspect to it. But we're major. If you look at our Airstream, it's predominantly kitchen. The bulk of it is kitchen. So we have to eat well. It's not an option, and we're both the same that way. We can't eat poorly. It's not in us anymore. We know the difference it makes to our well-being.
Yeah.
So always healthy. I mean, not that we don't indulge. I have a thing for ridged kettle chips, so we ate probably more of those on this trip than we've eaten ever since we've been together for 17 years. But overall we're 90% on, right? So
what did you learn about yourself in all of this? What have you uncovered about Tzabia?
I think I became even more aware of where my vulnerabilities are, where I get anxious for safety. Barry and I each discovered where our limitations and vulnerabilities are. And I think if anything, that came forward. I mean, I've always been pretty assertive in the physical world. Like I was, always involved in sports. And when I was younger, more of a risk taker, adventurer physically. And now I find, I'm almost 60, and I think maybe as we get older, we feel our physical vulnerability more. I really feel it when the wind is really something. When we had those gale storms, like I barely slept. When we're on the road, I'm very cautious about, poor Barry. I mean, he did all the driving, quite honestly, did all the driving, and he did a great job, but I'm a nervous passenger. So I really had to check myself with not being an obnoxious passenger. Because I feel for my safety, right? Sometimes I just feel it.
You mean they didn't install a brake on the passenger?
Yeah, right. No, not on this car. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that more than anything, I think I know myself quite well. I've been doing a lot of self-transformational work and working on myself for decades. So I know myself pretty well, and not a lot of surprises anymore, but I think vulnerability probably more than anything is what I learned.
You chose a path really less traveled. You chose to be living a dream. For those who, they're home, and we have a lot of time to think right about now about life, about our work, about meaning, and what we want to do moving forward. What advice would you give somebody watching about what it takes to live a dream and do what's in your soul?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And actually, I'm working on a workshop related to that for Mind Camp, which is a creativity conference that I've gone to for many years. I've missed a few years over the last, but it's a favorite spot. So
Mr. Hurston?
Yeah, Tim and Franca, yeah.
And John Ray, who we see here over here, he's involved with that.
Cool. Yeah, it's great. It's anybody, if you have any interest in going to anything related to creativity and just out of the box thinking, productive thinking, I so recommend it. It is so fun. It's really as much about community as anything. So just a little plug for Mind Camp that happens every August.
All right. We need that right now. We need a little.
We do. Yeah. And hopefully it will be happening. And if it doesn't, I'm sure they'll come up with some creative digital version of it.
Yeah. That's what people.
Yeah. But, I think this whole question of, is this your dream? I think, first of all, really being clear. I will say this, that when we were getting ready to do this and we would tell people about it, I would guess, I don't have the actual numbers, but I would guess that 3 out of 4 people said, that's my dream too. And I think, I don't know what part of that was. I think it's the freedom, the travel. I think a lot of people, so many people said that. So I would ask the question, first of all, is this your dream? Is it, don't grab onto somebody else's dream. Be really clear about whose dream it is, or exactly what yours is. And then, it's so important to look at the reality of what is it going to take? Not only what are you going to gain from it, but what are you going to give up by following that dream? That's really important, because you will go through grief to give up some things. Like in our case, giving up my home and my garden, which I had nurtured. Our neighborhood, we had the best neighborhood, because it was ours, and we were really connected to a lot of the people. We had a dead end street, friends, family. All of that, you give that up, so that was hard. And I think you have to be willing to do that. And if you're not willing to do it, be realistic with yourself. Be real with what you're willing to give up. That may be the first, once you know what your dream is, ask yourself that. And then you can start to, if you're willing to go through that, then launch, go through the phases of what do you need to get in place. And if you need support, get support from somebody who's done it, or, somebody who can help you organize it, whatever.
Who did you go to for support? Because this isn't something the average, couple in, East York is doing.
No. Well, I would say that we tapped into a lot of different people for different things. First of all, our friend Ian Barrett he's a really good friend, and he actually helped us kind of get the idea of the RV and based on what we were trying to accomplish. And he's given us in the early stages, he gave us a lot of support to understand that world more. And then, and I would say actually also Kristen and Lance, our other friends, same thing. They're RVers, small, and they do shorter trips, but she gave me a lot of insight. But, the actual making of the vision and the making it happen, I think really just comes from my own determination. And again, Barry, I'm the initiator and the one that drives. He's a really great follower and supporter. So it works well. And I would say really most of it came from that, quite honestly.
So if you were single and not married, would you have done this?
That is a really great question, and one that I've thought about. Okay, so I might, but I would do it in a very different way. I would get a small drivable vehicle, so like a Sprinter van that's really easy to manage. I would never do the trailer that we've got on my own. No way. There's just way too much work. There's too much physical labor involved, and like you've got to be strong. So no, I wouldn't do exactly what we're doing, but I might do some version of it. Yeah, I think I probably would. But then again, there's lots of different ways to do adventure as a single person. So I'm a researcher. I'd research the hell out of it before I made any decisions. Yeah.
I don't want to talk about COVID too much. This show is about positivity and helping people, maybe inspire people and to ignite people. But what did you encounter over the past few weeks with all what's been going on? Because you had to cross the border too. So now you're in isolation.
Yeah. So we were in the States for most of the point that it broke out and, really became big news right until yesterday. We were in the US. So I would say, what did we encounter? We encountered less isolation, less controls personally and community-wise than we are seeing in Ontario. There was a lot more freedom seeming to happen where we were. And in some cases, we traveled through a lot of different places, a lot of different towns. Some places you'd see less of the mask wearing and less of, some people just seem to be totally laissez-faire about it. We continued to hike right up until the week that we left to the drive. It took us a week to drive back, and we were in Arizona over the last month and a half. So we continued to hike around Sedona. And people on the paths would give way to each other. There was a lot of physical distancing as much as possible there. So that for us personally, I'm just going to speak personally, that was really great because it allowed us to stay healthy and feel good through this. And I think that's a really important facet of this, is trying to keep the spirit up, the mental, emotional spirit as well, because, stress, the more stress, the more it limits our immunity. It's the cortisol levels cause a direct drop in the function of the immune system. So I'm very aware about staying uplifted through this. And so we knew everything that was going on. We were in touch with family and friends in all locations. Nothing, I don't think there was too much we didn't know about. We did not spend a lot of time on the news, though. That was for sure. Yeah. We were in the sun, and that makes a big difference too. Yeah. So, but as far as what was around us, we were seeing it. We were seeing the effects. All the state and national parks were closed. The RV parks weren't taking anybody new in some cases. There was less traffic on the roads. I mean, it's happening everywhere for sure.
But it's interesting to see the difference.
Yeah.
Bobby, this is great having you.
Yeah.
Look,
It
there's
was.
the hiking. That looks like my shoe. I have duct tape on my shoe too. I got duct tape on a few things.
Actually, you know what? If anybody needs some advice around their hiking boots splitting apart, there's some really great glues out there that work better than duct tape.
There you are,
There you go.
COVID-19.
Yeah, the day we left.
Dear gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's good. I'm glad you're back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, so welcome back. And where do we reach you to kind of connect with you? Is it
So my food coach site is foodcoach.ca, so you can get my contact there. And then we also have airstreamtravels.com. So it's the same connecting, same email. So it's Tzabia at foodcoach.ca or info at foodcoach.ca.
And now look at that picture. It looks like your old area in Riverdale.
Does it? Very different.
Yeah. There you are in the kitchen.
Yeah, last night.
That was last night. Oh, yeah.
No, it was the last night on the road. So it was 2 nights ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wild. What a journey. I just wish you much health. I hope to see you soon.
Me too.
And I want to ride in Grace, okay? So
yes, okay. I look forward to, at least at the very least, showing her to you live. Yeah.
And you did, just to close off, you did talk about something really important, that if people are watching and they're feeling kind of blue or whatever, make sure you are working on your vibe. You can still go for a walk. You can still, exercise. I did my exercise bike and weights this morning, and you can still have conversations with people. And yes, there's the shock still and the things that we didn't really say goodbye to, but there's still ways around that. So I think that working on your vibe and eating well, exercise.
And doing some of the projects and the things that you've always wanted to do. This is your opportunity.
Yeah. Or plan for an Airstream, buy an Airstream.
Talk to me first.
Okay. And head out on the highway. I want to cue, Stefan, right?
Oh,
on to be,
Oh, yeah. Good. I love it. I love it.
I better stop singing or we'll drive anybody wild. Thank you for this.
Pleasure. Thank you.
You can
so fun.
I've got our next guest in tow here. If you want to stay, you want to go, it's up to you, Tzabia. So
I'd like to hear what's going on.
Yeah. This woman's an interesting woman and quite heartfelt as well.
Thank
Her name is Manuela Stefan, and she's a Romanian-Canadian lifestyle photographer with a passion for horses and travel. Tzabia, see? With a bachelor in power engineering from her home country. Manuela Stefan has always longed for expressing her artistic side, and changing continents allowed her to tap into her soul's desire. In 2007, she became a full-time photographer. I'm going to just share her screen with you. So that's one. I'm just going to just share. Bear with me, folks. There we go. Here we go. That's her work. It's gorgeous, eh? Anyway, so Manuel became a full-time photographer specializing in wedding photojournalism, and then a few years later had an incredible chance to reconnect with horses. And this has been a pivotal moment in her life on her creative and spiritual level, because she felt called to travel to places like Camargue, France, and this is how her first important body of equine work was born. And since then, Manuel has traveled the world to find horses in incredible locations and created a few signature equine pieces of art. And her uniquely crafted signature art pieces can be found in private collections around the world. With a passion for storytelling through both images and words, Manuela's horse articles have been featured in Horse Canada, The Rider, Elite Equestrian, Performance Horse Digest, Back in the Saddle, WOA, and WOA, and the Romanian Observer, as well as on websites like Equitrecking, Top 50 Ranches, Equine VIP, The Equinist, and Hortialysis. Oh my God, I can't say that. As a traveling photographer, Manuela has had the privilege to connect with many humans on the earth, oftentimes offered support in unexpected ways. She was asked if she would ever consider becoming a life coach. So there's their connection too. which inspired Manuela to help others in a more committed way. Manuela recently created the Soul Portal, a space of inspiration and support on Facebook, where she will start offering compassionate guiding sessions to others while also sharing information she's found helpful along her own spiritual journey. Wow. Manuela, as we look at the screen here, you know, your photography is really stunning. And, you know, it captures the majesty, the beauty, and the spirit of the horses that you capture. So, what do you see in the horses that maybe we need to see in ourselves?
Where do I begin? You see, first of all, I have to tell you that I grew up in Romania, and my paternal grandfather always had horses. And at the time, I was too small to understand really and appreciate the gift he had, this man had with his animals. But it was quite obvious that there was a way for him to communicate and connect. And I remember clearly how those horses were looking up to him, because he was a true leader in his very own simple, humble way. So years later, I was still living in the city, and years later I had to travel to Canada, and through my photography I got reconnected with these incredible beings. And I feel like all those ancestral memories, all those untapped experiences and understanding really just invaded me, invaded my being. And they first were translated into some incredible experiences and images that I was creating. But on top of that, there was a different layer that I was not really able to understand as of yet. And actually, there was nothing to understand, because understanding comes from the mind. But rather, I can say that it was a very deep feeling inside of my heart, that it was sometimes translating into the images. And what is also interesting is that I began to realize that the images were almost carrying the vibration of my own love, because people were resonating, and especially women. I had situations at art shows where women stopped and even cried in front of an image. And I had to ask, what is it? Do you mind telling me, what is it that you're feeling? And I remember this woman in particular, I just had to let her be, and she was sobbing. And she said, I don't know, I just was so drawn to this horse, and I looked into his eye, and I felt like everything that I've ever held in my heart just burst out open. So it was so humbling to see this, because I was also experiencing it myself. You know, I had healing moments with especially with big groups of horses. And slowly these experiences made me realize that yes, we seek out experiences in the world, but at the end of the day, our true home is our heart space. And if we can find a way to constantly come back to it, then we can reach that alignment that we are all looking for, and that joy will just, you know, be oozing through our pores, if you know what I mean. It's so yes, an artistic experience turned spiritual, or I probably, you know, it's always been like this. It took me a while to process all this and to really have it sunken in.
What's the connection, do you think, that people have with their horse or horses? And what do you think the connection is for horses with humans? Because every picture I see here is beautiful. Like people are happy. They're at peace. There's just such peace to this. Like there's just so much beauty. What is it? What's the connection about? What's kind of
I think it's definitely something that most people are unaware. If I were to explain it, it is hard to explain, but horses have a very large heart, a very large field around their hearts. And I think as humans, we are constantly seeking for inner peace and joy ultimately. So if you are aware of the idea of entrainment, you know, the metronomes that eventually, if they're started separately, eventually get in sync. I really feel that because of how strong and powerful their heart space is, eventually in their presence, our own heart field becomes entrained. So doesn't matter how we feel when we get into their space, eventually we synchronize our rhythms with theirs. So biologically, strictly from a biological perspective, our systems start calming down. And it is just a physical, purely physical explanation, but also there's obviously a spiritual level, a deep spiritual level, because from that calm space, we start feeling our own bodies. And it's almost like it is in a calm, quiet space that inspiration comes and love can be experienced and connection can be experienced. So I really see horses as these, like many other sentient beings, but horses in particular, because they have been such part of our lives and have created history with us, shoulder to shoulder, so to speak. I feel there are these pillars of groundness and support, and they exude this massive amount of love, almost like holding space for our own hearts and holding space for ourselves to finally realize that it is in our hearts that we will always feel home.
Wow. Tzabia, do you have, did you want to ask something or?
Oh, I'm
I know.
I'm just blown away. I have an affinity, like many people, to horses as well. And these are just extraordinary photographs that really do show exactly what you're speaking of, the heart. They're beautiful, really beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Manuela, and you and I have talked offline too before. The notion of self-love is not so easy. I mean, we've all been programmed to think we're less than, inferior, we're bad, we're sinners, we're fat, we're thin, we're tall, we're short, we're rich, we're poor, whatever. What do we need to be doing to erase these inner dialogues and tapes and really truly begin to love who we are?
Well, I have to tell you with all honesty that I am on my own journey, because we never stop learning. And I am now realizing that we come here on earth having to go through our own lessons, but there's also a certain amount of inheritance, ancestral inheritance. And I find many of us carry a lot of that inside, and it takes time, and it takes really being courageous on this journey to realize what is truly holding us back. So I've been on that journey where, you know, when I was traveling and I was having these massive heartfelt experiences, I was at my best. But there also have been situations in my life where I can say my lights all of a sudden got a bit dimmed, because I allowed some of my programs to come to the surface and take over. So it is in the mind. When you are in the mind, and when you allow your conditionings to take over, that such things can happen. And I am currently on a journey of understanding which part of me is still playing a role and still trying to make me, let's say, drive with the brakes on, so to speak. So it is a journey of honesty. It is a journey of basically healing, if I may say. So I find lately I've let's say to me, working with horses was like a walking meditation. But right now, because, especially because we are in this situation, I have to really come up with an intention every day of going into my heart. So I started meditating, and I find it is really helping me, because I have a very active mind, and at times I give in to what it is saying to me. And there are moments when I am not conscious of it, and it takes awareness, it takes work to start separating these things for myself. And this is how I think I was inspired to start connecting with others, because I find we all, especially now, we are all going through this, because it's such a transformative experience on so many levels. And I think more and more people are becoming aware of how important feeling your heart and exercising compassion and gratitude is, because it is through gratitude and compassion that the heart expands. And the more the heart expands, the more we have that desire to offer and to help and to serve and to exchange experiences with others, because ultimately we are one big organism. And I think the more we understand that there were just aspects of it, the more compassion we will have for each other, and the more we are going to be willing to drop judgment, because what is there to judge? We are all on our own journeys, and we do our very best to navigate through them,
So when we begin to strip away all of that guck or the stinking thinking, what's left, Manuela? What's at the core of each of us? Is it that purity, that love, that the compassion, what's at the core of each of us?
At the core, I think at the core is really source, because we come from it, and we are little branches. We branch out of it, and it is a bit of an abstract maybe thing to grasp, but I do believe that the more we get ourselves out of the way, so to speak, the less we block this connection to source or God or the mighty power, however you want to call it, the more we just remain that light that we are and that love that we are, because source, God, is only love. There's nothing else. And it's again, it's not easy, but it's possible. More and more people are starting to get glimpses of this, how it feels to just be stripped of the clutter and the noise, and just be left with that feeling of just pure nothingness, calmness, and love. How do we love ourselves? It is a powerful question, but I don't think it takes action. It rather takes a desire to just be. It takes an awareness of that connection with the inner spark. And the moment we are able to get in there, to dig in there, there's only love left.
Tzabia, I want to just throw to you for a second, because you and Barry stripped away everything. The business, the Schmooze Cafe, which I quite liked. I probably didn't go there as much as I should have. I apologize. But the house, the life you had, when you stripped all that away, did you discover something deeper? Did you discover love? Did you discover something new?
Freedom. Freedom. Yeah. There's a freedom in not having a lot of physical attachment. I think that's what we discovered. Certainly I did. I'll speak for myself.
We don't need that much, do we?
Not really. I mean, it's not like, honestly, I don't want to take too much time because Manuela's got on such a great journey here. But
thank you.
Yeah, no, it's so beautiful. I'd love to connect with you afterwards because I do have a connection to horses as well. So I want to talk to you about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think we were kind of looking forward to having more than 200 square feet to move in. But other than that, I don't think there is a lot. And it's really quite wonderful to not have a television. Simple. It's actually a great time. It's a great experience to go through many months of no television.
Yeah, I bet.
So, yeah. Because then you discover other things that you can do. So.
Wow. So Manuela, what in your estimation, maybe we're in it right now, but what in your estimation will it take for humanity to begin to heal and do the one thing that every religion shares, and that is to love our neighbor as we would thyself?
Sorry, what was the beginning of your question? I didn't.
What will it take for humanity to heal and do the one thing that every religion says you to do, which is to love?
What will it take?
You would thyself. For love to take place among nations, countries, people. Like there's still a division, right?
No, absolutely not. And this experience we are going through right now is really one of the best catalysts for
change.
This awareness. Yeah, because I really think it just takes awareness. And it's almost like, if I may say, I don't even know why this came to me right now. Love is addictive. It's as if many people didn't allow themselves the space and to experience that in their own hearts. Because the moment you have that experience, you want more of it, and everything stems from there. You feel that in your heart, and it's just automatically you are compelled to give. You're compelled to give what you have and allow others to experience. So I think the more people will come into this awareness, the more it will become like it will turn into a domino of love. Wow. And I can see it just rippling throughout the world. It's not like, I don't think it's something that we need to do. Again, it's not about doing. It's about the feeling, and more people are becoming, let's say, familiar with this. We need to become familiar with the taste of it first, and then love it so much that we just don't want to, give it away anymore. And I think this is the awakening from the sleepwalking we've been doing for so many centuries. And of course, there were here and there was awareness. I don't think this world would have existed without these hubs of awareness. But these hubs now are becoming bigger and bigger. So instead of seeing, the occasional enlightened person here and there, we are going to form clusters of awareness and enlightenment, so to speak. And the only direction is up from here.
Love is used in so many ways, such as I love my job, I love my kids, I love my home, I really love my car. Rarely do we hear I love myself. Louise Hay of Hay House, in the work in her book called You Can Heal Your Life, talks about the importance of self-love as the key to healing. What's your take on that?
Absolutely. And everything starts with us. And again, what we're going through right now is no accident. And I think it's also a very powerful opportunity for people to move from fear into love, because fear is the biggest block in the way of us experiencing our heart space. And I really think that when we have that experience and we are able to feel what's actually happening in here, from that moment on, we we can only have appreciation for our own selves, because we always, we tend to look at others and think that love is honoring others. But truly it has to start with us, because if we are hard on ourselves, we are going to be hard on everyone else, because this will constantly be projected in a way so we can finally become aware. Everything is mirrored into this universe. So the moment we come into our own selves, into our own heart space, I believe that our light becomes shining brighter. And it's the only way, we can reflect it outside into the world, and we can, give it to others. And it's self-love is it cannot be taught. There are obviously spiritual sources or spiritual leaders trying to show us the way. And I've read numerous spiritual books, and I've listened to numerous spiritual talks. And let me tell you, they all make sense. But for a long time, they stayed, some of these teachings, or many of these teachings, I realized, stayed a little bit at an intellectual level. And it is only when we actually have that realization that, we get that glimpse into what this actually represents for our bodies, for our spirit, that it finally can sink in. It's a personal experience, and I don't even know if it can be taught. Yes, it's wonderful that we talk about it, because it's good for us to know that it's possible, but it's only until we actually feel it deeply that it can be, acknowledged, and as I said, it becomes addictive. Life can only be lived that way from that moment on. It's just a matter of reaching that point.
Yeah, that's why I don't think there's going back. I think it's going forward. Can't go back. So I want to quote, and Tzabia, you'll like this quote too. This is Nelson Mandela, and I think Marianne Williamson had a hand in this too. Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. And we ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. What do you make of that quote by the late Nelson Mandela? Just spoke to me today.
Yeah, and I think, I've known of this quote, and I find it to be incredibly real. And I have caught myself many times, let's say, being limited by my own interpretation of self-worth. And when I was truly able to clean the path between me and my and source, then everything I was experiencing was pure power and inspiration and creation. When there were other times when, let's say, my limiting beliefs were kicking in, and I was feeling less than, or I was thinking that what I'm doing is all right, but is not, let's say, I wasn't sure if people were connecting with it. And so the self-doubt was prevalent. And it's really what hinders our evolution. And when you are doubting your worth, I think the fear of shining too bright is associated, can kick in as well. You know, these two are they can go hand in hand, and it's a very tricky thing. It's a very tricky thing, and we can live our lives with this voice playing in the background, and it may take a while to really understand, or to become aware of its presence. And we can be powerful creators, and it's almost like source or God is saying, okay, I'm going to give you an example of who you are and what you are capable of doing, and then it is up to you. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to fully express it and just drop all your self-limiting obstacles? Are you going to do that? What are you? It's almost like we have a choice to whether or not expressing these gifts to, how should I put this? Sorry, I'm not sure. I lost a bit my train of thought. Fully becoming aware of of this connection with source, and how we can just let it flow through us. That's it. It's as simple as that. Okay. Because when we let it be, we become the best expression of it, and then fear drops completely.
We're almost out of time here. I've got a couple of questions up for you. In your coaching practice, you help people live from their hearts. What stops us from living in that place?
Fear. I think it's fear. And when we experience fear, I really feel that our heart space shrinks, and we operate from the level of mainly subconscious mind, and we tap into our self-limiting beliefs, our self-judgment. So basically we shrink. And I really think that, our whole, like our energy field shrinks, and we go back to being a little bit flatter or two-dimensional, as opposed to living as expansive beings, connected to source.
Tzabia, did fear get in your way? And then I'll just ask Manuela one other question. But did fear kind of maybe stop you from doing the Airstream thing, driving out to, BC last fall?
Fear comes up. Yeah, fear came up many times.
How did you overcome your fear?
I think Manuela's tapping into something so true that, and I would say it in this way, that I think spirit moves through us and gives us the opportunity to express ourselves, and we have to do the physical work. We have to do the work in our lives. So it's a team effort, right? So I think for me, it's a combination of connecting to spirit in through meditation and prayer and divination tools, and also sometimes just going for it. Just doing it, like feel the fear and go for it anyway.
Yeah, like that book, right?
Yeah. But if I may, I'll just say one thing is I think it's also okay to sometimes acknowledge the fear that we have and be okay with that too. As an example, my husband will climb higher than I will. Like when we go on hikes, he wants to keep going to the very top. I don't feel that need to do that anymore, and I don't feel the need to push that. And I'm okay with that. And I think that's also part of it, is accepting where we feel a limitation, and we're okay with that limitation.
Is that why that's why he has duct tape on the boot, right?
That's why I have duct tape on the boot. I don't know.
If I get remarried again, I'm not going to register for crystal and fine china. I'm registering for duct tape. I think you probably use that more around the house than me.
Could do a whole hour session on duct tape pieces.
Repairs everything. And if you paint over it, it matches the leather couch and everything. My final question to you, Manuel, is this. What do we need to do in order to begin to live and love from our heart center?
Again, it's about doing. And I think I know it's something that we hear a lot, but I really believe and I feel it to be true. A fantastic exercise, daily exercise, is thankfulness, appreciation for who we are, first of all. Just take a moment to appreciate just this body that has carried us graciously throughout our lives. We don't really stop to do it. Just give love to these bodies of ours, these beautiful vehicles we were given, without which we will not be able to experience anything on this earth. So when we are in that state of appreciation and gratitude and thankfulness, our hearts expand, and it becomes an effortless experience. And from that place of pure expansion, we cannot wait to share this excitement with others. I'm not sure. I am sorry. I wanted to say, I'm sure you have experienced this. When you tap into your own joy and love, you cannot wait to touch another, and almost, inspire them to feel the same way, because it is an infectious feeling. And I really think that it's just what's happening right now, even though we don't quite see it. Love is going to spread into the world, kind of like in a metaphorical way. This virus is trying to spread and let's say, apparently hurt us. I really think that our love will come in as the most beautiful and effective antidote.
Wow, what a nice way to end today's conversation. Wow, I'm just so excited for somebody who's going to tune in and watch us, and I really hope. I think we inspired a lot of people today. I want to thank you, Manuela, for this. We reach you here for now, right? gracefulhorses.com, right?
This is my website, and I have Graceful Horses on Facebook, Graceful Horses Photography on Facebook and Instagram. But also feel free to go on Facebook and visit my brand new The Soul Portal, which will be my new way of expressing myself. You can find it on Facebook, The Soul Portal. I think you already liked it, so it should come up.
Here it is.
So and I want to start talking to as many people as I can. I started by offering free sessions to a few people, and I've had unbelievable experiences. So I want to do it in a more committed way, and for a while probably I'll just do it for whoever can afford it, because I want to reach out to as many people as I can through these sessions. I don't even know how to call them, but heart-to-heart talks, heart-to-heart compassionate talks, where I just am there to support people on their journeys to the best of my ability and knowledge.
I love it. And Tzabia, you as well. You're kind of doing the same thing, Tzabia, like with your work as well. So what two great guests. I really so appreciate you both for this. And
thank you.
Thank you.
And we appreciate you.
Yes, we do, David.
Pleasure.
You're a light on this. You're a light on this planet.
You're doing that because I'm a Scorpio like you. Right?
Yeah, Scorpio.
Thank you, guys.